Hello all. Today we are going to learn about a parasitic organism Trypanosoma brucei. Trypanosomes are a group of blood and tissue flagellates which are parasitic in nature, and these parasites spreads in the blood and also invades the lymph node by lymphatics, enters into the central nervous system, and it causes serious health issues like African sleeping sickness. This is considered to be a parasite of connective tissue which readily multiplies in blood, invades the central nervous system, and causes disease like African sleeping sickness. And this is considered to be a disease of central nervous system. Now, looking at the structural features of this organism, its body is of two forms, either non-flagellated or flagellated forms. Flagellated forms are elongated, narrow, and curved, and non-flagellated forms are round and ovoid. Then they have a nucleus which is situated at the center of the body, and it is mainly concerned with the nutritive function, hence it is called a strophonucleus. Now it have another structure which is called as kinetoplast. Kinetoplast is a small granular body which is situated on either anterior or posterior side of the nucleus, and it is mainly meant for surviving in the invertebrate host and not necessary in surviving in vertebrate host. Now, they have a flagellum, which is a thread-like structure which arises from a small granular structure called basal body near the kinetoplast, and it arises from anterior end and runs along the length of the body. Now, there is an undulating membrane. Actually, this is an extension of protoplasm to the surface where it is residing. And when you look at the microscope, you can see that it is like a membrane. It runs along the length of the body. Hence, it is called as undulating membrane. So, this is a structure. There is nucleus, anterior and posterior end is shown. Kinetoplast is from basal body where flagellum arises. And the protoplasm, which is acting as an undulating membrane, and flagellum going out like free at the anterior end. The trypanosomes, they exist in different morphological forms. One is the promastigote stage. It is otherwise called as a leptomonad stage. This stage have their flagellum which is situated at anterior end and running along the length of the body, and kinetoplast is situated at the anterior side of the nucleus. Next form is epimastigote stage or cryptidial stage. This stage, the kinetoplast is again at the anterior side of the nucleus, but it is more closely placed, and the flagella is running in much more length than that of the previous condition. And third form is the trypomastigote forms, which is considered to be the developed form, completely developed form, and having their kinetoplast situated at the posterior side of the nucleus, and flagella arises from this, which comes out like free flagella. So these are the morphological forms like the trypomastigote forms, then the electromonad forms and cryptidial forms. In addition to that, there are several intermediate forms like short stumpy form, metacyclic form, which is infective, long slender forms, etc. And they resides in different morphological forms when they are inside the different organisms and when they are undergoing their different stages of life cycle. The life cycle of Trypanosoma brucei is completed in two different host organism, hence it is called as a digenetic organism. One is a vertebrate host. It is usually man or cats or horses, etc. And in invertebrate host is usually a fly called a sessile fly, which is coming under genus Glossina. The picture is shown here of Glossina. The life cycle is divided into two different stages. One is the development which is taking place inside the vertebrate host or man. Next is the development taking place inside the fly. First, we look at the development process which is taking place inside the man. And to the body of the man, this fly is being biting for their blood meal, and during this, their saliva contains the metacyclic forms which are being introduced onto the skin surface of the human body. Here, the metacyclic forms they multiplies and they enters into the next form and enters into the bloodstream also. The next form is the long slender forms, and subsequently parasite enters the bloodstream resulting in parasitemia. From there, it multiplies to form short stumpy forms, and these short stumpy forms are again spreading in the bloodstream, which are taken up by the sessile fly during their blood meal, and it enters the sessile fly's body for their further development. Next stage of their life cycle is taking place in the invertebrate host, that is a sessile fly. The sessile fly takes this stumpy forms inside their body, and through their alimentary canal, this particular parasite moves unaltered. But when it reaches the midgut, they undergo some changes and they starts multiplying for about 15 days. These 15 days, they enters the peritrophic space and multiplies in maximum number, getting into the form of long slender ones. After 15 days, they escape to the proventriculus, hypopharynx, buccal cavity, salivary glands, and to the opening of the salivary ducts. In the opening of the salivary ducts, again this long slender forms multiplies and forms into metacyclic forms, which are the infective form. These infective forms are again being administered on the skin surface of the humans or other vertebrate organisms while the biting of the tsetse fly. This is how their life cycle is going on. So this is the life cycle in which you can see that the flies are taking up the infective forms, and this being undergoing multiplication in the body of fly at different stages, which is taking place in the tsetse fly. Then it is again being introduced on the skin surface of another human which is not infected, and here the again they multiplies and forms into short stumpy forms that is taken up again by the fly, and the cycle continues. Now we look at the pathogenesis. This is mainly due to the bite of the tsetse fly, which is having contaminated saliva with its parasitic organisms, and this results in the heavy infiltration of macrophages to the site of inoculation, and also production of large number of non-specific immunoglobulins. Another important thing is the pathogenic lesions. Severe damage happens to the perivascular connective tissues due to the multiplication and activities of the parasitic organisms that are spreading inside, and they causes parasitic lesions, and this is also found in the lymph nodes and the central nervous system. In central nervous system, there is another important condition called as perivascular cuffing. This is a situation in which the glial cells, that are the macrophages in the brain, they undergoes multiplication and it enters and migrates to every perivascular space of the brain, and this causes a cuffing of the vessels inside and resulting into thrombosis. The choroid plexus gets congested, and also there will be an infection of leptomeninges. Cuffing is so called because the vessels are getting blocked by the glial cells that are produced against this parasite. Another thing is the lymph nodes also shows hemorrhages because of the invasion of this parasite to the lymph nodes through lymphatics, and this causes serious spreading of this parasite inside the lymph also. Now the clinical pathology, how you are looking at this, what are the clinical manifestations of this infection by the parasite? One is blood. In blood you can see leukocytosis, anemia, increase in the ESR, and also auto-agglutination of RBCs. Another one is cerebrospinal fluid. They have the raised pressure, and there will be increased cell count, increased protein content, and the cerebrospinal fluids in which we can see the parasite also. Now looking at the clinical features, one important thing is the development of chancre, which is a hard painful nodule formed on the skin surface where the fly have bitten, and this is being painful for about 2 weeks, and remains without suppurating for about 2 weeks. After that, it starts formation of pus. Other symptoms include the infection of bloodstream, involvement and enlargement of lymph nodes, invasion to CNS causing meningoencephalitis. Patient becomes very thin, wasted, fever, headache, loss of nocturnal sleep, appearance of rashes, etc. Another important manifestation of this African sleeping disease sickness is that the person, due to the infection in the central nervous system, the patient's activity will be very low. That's why it is considered called to be wasted, and the patient seems to be sleepy always. Even in the daytime also the patient is very tired and sleepy, and if it is left untreated without any medication, there is a possibility that the person dies within the sleep while he is sleeping, and due to this reason that disease is called as African sleeping sickness. For lab diagnosis, we takes various samples. For the demonstration of these trypanosomes, blood can be used, peripheral blood can be used, then bone marrow which is taken from the lumbar puncture, then juice aspirated from the lymph nodes, and also the cerebrospinal fluid can be used for the demonstration of this parasite. The methods include direct microscopical examination, both stained and unstained films can be used, thick and thin films can be used, and if the parasite's number is very scanty, then thick film have to be used, and also concentration methods have to be applied. Inoculation and cultivation are another method for the demonstration or identification of this parasite from the samples. For the concentration methods, it include microhematocrit centrifugation technique, miniature anion exchange centrifugation technique, Buffy Cott technique, etc. So with this centrifugation and concentration methods, we can find out even scanty number of parasite. Now the serological tests involved are the estimation of immunoglobulin M levels. There will be high levels of immunoglobulin M if it is infected with a parasite, which can be detected using agar cell precipitation. Indirect fluorescent antibody test is another one, complement fixation test, ELISA test, and card agglutination test specifically for trypanomastigotes, and card indirect antigen test for trypanosomiasis, etc. are some other tests which can be used for, serological tests which can be used for the lab diagnosis of this Trypanosoma brucei. And coming to the prophylaxis, it is very important to take up the prophylactic measures to control the disease. One thing is that we need to control the flies that are spreading this disease by destroying their habitats, by applying pesticides and destroying the breeding grounds of them. Another thing is avoiding the bites of this. The time when these flies are biting, that time it need to be avoided. Full sleeve shirts and body covering dress should be used. Then repellent creams, the insect repellent creams can be used, and also they have to avoid places where these flies are usually concentrated. Another important thing is that a person who is infected with this disease, if it is diagnosed, then he have to be given the proper medication at right time, and should be isolated till he is getting completely relieved from this disease. It is very important because if that patient is still residing inside the community, then there is a possibility that the fly can transmit the disease into other people also. These are the different prophylactic measures. So, as a summary, when we look at the parasites are organisms that are depending on other organisms for their living and food. And exoparasites and endoparasites are there. Endoparasites are living inside the body, exoparasites are living outside the host body surface. And Trypanosoma brucei is a blood and tissue flagellatic parasitic organism which is usually residing inside the blood, spread through the lymph and the central nervous system, and causes serious health disease called as African sleeping sickness. There are species variants for this Trypanosoma brucei like Trypanosoma cruzi, Trypanosoma gambians, etc. All these are infective different range of vertebrate organisms like cats, humans, dogs, etc. And this, since this causes serious health issues, like even if it is causing the infection of the central nervous system, it is very important to be treated as they need to be treated very with care, and they have to be controlled properly if the disease is produced in the community. So that's all about the topic. Thank you.